So, Brew, who would be an instant Super Bowl contender if they added Matthew Stafford?
I see Minnesota, I think, is definitely a Super Bowl contender. And in that mix, I know you'll probably say San Francisco. I think they're a contender even with Purdy. I'm going to give you two quick teams that I think will be playoff contenders. Pittsburgh probably already is, but Pittsburgh certainly. I don't think they win the Super Bowl or get there. The Jets. Wow. If the Jets got Stafford, because you still got Breece Hall, you still got Garrett Wilson, maybe you keep Devontae. I think that defense was talented. And
it would be the
Aaron
idea
Jones,
that they had behind Aaron Rodgers, but just have it
I think
work
he's better
out.
than Rodgers at this point. So
I was with you until you said the Jets.
Okay.
So they couldn't even make the playoffs?
Oh, he's 37 years old. Do you know how many times he's been sacked?
A lot.
502 times. 500, that's a lot of wear on those tires.
So he's washed.
And now you're going to send him into New York, who had all the problems that they had with the offensive line. Hopefully they can get those things fixed. But I can't imagine he's excited like, hey, I'm going to go play outside for a first-year head coach and a team that's been struggling, hasn't historically been able to protect the quarterback. The Minnesota idea, that makes more sense because they're much better positioned to win, similar to the way that L.A. was when he got traded from Detroit. I think his best shot to win the Super Bowl is staying exactly where he is and trying to figure out something to do with the money or some way to make that marriage work for another year, because that to me is both the team and his situation to win the Super Bowl.
So before you go, Greg, let me add to that, because I think this is crazy by the Rams. I would pay him. I still think Matt Stafford is clearly a top 10 quarterback in this league. I think even last year, I know his passer rating was down, Brew, but I think when you watched them, when they felt like they were a team that could have made the Super Bowl. Like, to me, all year long, and then come the playoffs, they played the Eagles better than anybody. You know what I mean? Like, the Eagles blew out everyone they played, including the Chiefs. That Rams game, the Rams are kind of in control until back-to-back fumbles, and then even despite that, they have the ball at the 20-yard line down 6 with a chance to steal that football game. The idea that they're going to get a high first-round pick for him, I think, is fantasy. I saw some people like, oh, the Giants are interested. I'm sure maybe the Giants are interested for their second-round pick, not for the third pick of the draft. Like, so I don't.
Even the second-round pick. I mean, we're talking about an older quarterback going to a completely different system, to a down team who's going to be playing in inclement weather. Like,
so I agree. I don't love the fit. My point is, if I'm the Rams, yes, if I could get the third pick of the draft, I'd move on from Matt Stafford.
Yeah,
that's
in
fine.
A second.
But I think they'd be getting closer to the 33rd pick than the third pick. So I don't understand why this relationship seems to be fractured, because my answer is the same as coaches. Who would he make Super Bowl contenders?
Yeah.
The team he has currently made Super Bowl contenders with the Rams, with Puka, they've drafted well recently. But
Cup,
I think they probably will lose Cup, but Cup, I kind of feel like they lost Cup after the Super Bowl. I know he's still on the team, but he had suffered so many injuries, wasn't the same guy.
And he's only $27 million in cash this year. That's what they have to pay out. And the amount of money that they'd have in the dead money.
That's the thing. I think he's going to end up
I think they think he won't play for that. Like that he is going to force their hand, that he has to get a new contract, which probably works into the math on this. My point is, I would pay him the money.
I would definitely pay him. He's good enough. He's proven. He's one of the better quarterbacks. You can go down a list of guys because you're shaking your head.
No, I'm shaking my
head.
I'm shaking my head. And he's under contract for this year and next year.
Right.
He's gotten plenty of money.
Yeah,
he has paid a lot of money.
If you don't want to play for this dollar amount, then go to the beach.
So
I'm with Coach on that.
I don't think when as far as finding a team that would be Super Bowl, like the Minnesota Vikings, yes. Outside of that, I don't know if there's a team that he can. I don't agree with you with the Jets. I think there's a team that he can go to in the AFC South that would make them a contender definitely to win the AFC South, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. Which, if you get in with Matt Stafford, if you get in the playoffs, he's dangerous, because as you have it, he's not a civilian guy at quarterback. He's one of those guys that can put on a cape and he can carry a team and do some damage in the postseason. with them having a running game, offensive line, they have weapons at the receiver position. Like they have a team that's set up. You have a young guy that isn't really doing anything right now. He probably could use some tutelage. I think
here's the thing, though, about
be
Stafford, and Nick will get mad, but it's true. It's out of your playbook, too. Without the Avengers, all right, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, he was not very good.
He won a Super Bowl without Puka Nacua.
Oh, that was a few years ago,
Yeah.
and Kupp was at his
at his peak. That is true.
right. And so he has not. Last year he was not good without those guys. So I don't know. He's 37, like Coach said.
The Colts idea is that's an interesting idea, and I think that's an organization now and a GM who's at a spot where you better we're getting to the end of the road here. You better find some answer. It hasn't worked out with the guy that you drafted. And if you go get a guy like him and with the hopes that he makes the young guy better by being around and then gives you a real life chance to win now, that makes sense.
And I think something that we probably, you mentioned it, the inclement weather. Like him being in Detroit in a dome his entire career, playing Minnesota twice, and they're in a dome.
Yep.
Obviously going to L.A., being on the West Coast. I don't know if he wants to go somewhere where he's going to be in cold weather.
Oh, I agree. It's one of the reasons I think the Giants thing doesn't make sense, is that none of those teams are in a dome. It's bad, you know what I mean? It's Northeast. It's bad weather. It's also why this is – I threw this out there 6 weeks ago, and I think people misconstrued. They made it seem like I don't think as highly of Stafford as I do. But a trade that I think – if you squint, makes sense for both teams and answers this question, is the rare quarterback for quarterback trade, which he was involved in once before, obviously, which is Matt Stafford for Tua. And the argument there is that the Rams get younger and, oddly, a little cheaper at quarterback because some of that bonus money by Tua has been paid out and you have cost certainty there. And I think the idea from Sean McVay should be, we have seen Tua at his best, what he can be, and I bet Sean McVay, I understand it's a different system than Mike McDaniel, but looks at himself as the premier, offensive mind in football, not Mike McDaniel. And if you're the Dolphins, we probably have one more year with Tyreek, one more year where, this whole group gets to run together before the bills that we have put on the credit card come due. Let's go for it right now. I understand it's the AFC East, so you have a lot of bad weather road games, but you're in Miami, so for good weather there. That, to me, I think Stafford is far better than Tua, but he's 10 years older. And so if you're the Rams, it gives you the opportunity that maybe you're not starting over entirely at quarterback. You can keep it rolling with the guy who's under contract. And I think that would make, I don't know how you feel, Brew, that would make the Dolphins far scarier than they are right now for this coming season. It would mean, they have to figure it out down the road. But that would make them very scary to me.
Obviously, both teams are in good shape over the next 3 years. I think the window, if I pick the team, they both need to win it ASAP.
Yeah.
But I think more so for the Ravens because of Derrick Henry. He's 31. He'll be in his 10th year next year. He was awesome this year, obviously. But how many more of those years does he have? Does he even have next year in him? I think he does, but that's not a guarantee, and certainly not after that. And a part of me, initially when I looked at this, I said, you know what? Lamar's smaller. They're both 28. Both quarterbacks 28 will be in their 8th year. Lamar's smaller. He runs. And at his size, is he going to last as long as a running quarterback? And he's had more injuries than Josh. Yeah, as Josh. But then I thought about, Cam Newton was even a little bit bigger than Josh as far as weight. And his career, he took too many hits. And then Josh takes harder hits than Lamar.
I think Josh takes more of a game-to-game pounding than Lamar Jackson.
Runs more vertically.
Yeah. Lamar is very shifty about getting out of the way, not taking big hits. So I'm going to go with the Ravens that I keep because I think Lamar clearly, to me, not clearly, they're both good passers. But I think, look at this, for their careers, Lamar has been the better passer as far as passer rating,
So that's a shocking stat that I find.
And remember, this includes Lamar's early years when he wasn't as good of a quarter. I know his second year he was great at passing numbers, but he's gotten better as a passer. So I think Lamar.
I think most people would think this is fake. I think if like this screenshot gets shared on the internet, people will be like, "That's manipulated." Because the thing that jumps out to me is that Josh has never had sustained back-to-back great passing seasons. You know what I mean? He has been, some called him a roller coaster at times. You know what I mean? As far as a passer, he has been, and he also has been the last couple years kind of a more devastating runner than Lamar. In a different way. So the way we view him, because I do think people believe, and I believe, that Josh is the more kind of manicured pocket passer and a guy that in a drop-back passing game you trust more. But the stats say that Lamar's been the more consistent guy. Go ahead.
I know you guys probably think that I'm going to go with Buffalo.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I assume you're going to be right.
But
I always assume you're going to be right.
But as the only member of the first ever Ravens team in the history of the NFL, when we transitioned from the Cleveland Browns to the Baltimore Ravens, I'm going to go with Baltimore.
All right, Coach.
I mean, I'd rather live in Baltimore than Buffalo. If I had to choose, no disrespect to Buffalo, but if I was making that choice.
Sure.
And then when you look at the teams overall, so Lamar's only had one losing season since he's been there, and that was the year that he got dinged up at the end of the year. I think it would have probably. Rawls only had 2 losing. And I thought Buffalo had gotten over the hump from a salary cap perspective, but they're $12 million over the cap right now versus Baltimore, who's $9 million under the cap. So their ability to improve the team, Baltimore, at least in the short term, has a better ability to do that. When you look at the draft, Baltimore's got 12 draft picks, and that's something they've always put an emphasis on, and they draft well. So from an organizational perspective, I would imagine that Baltimore is going to be continue to be successful. And really, it all just comes down to which quarterback do you like better. And from a passing perspective, I like Josh better. From a dangerous, the pressure that someone puts on the defense, I think Lamar puts a unique pressure on the defense that I would lean towards him.
You're right, Coach.
This is interesting because, I mean, it's splitting hairs with these guys. And I thought about the health. Josh Allen doesn't miss games.
No.
And so he's
even if he has to kind of fake play one to keep a streak alive, but he never misses games. Yeah.
And so I thought about that. But then as Coach was talking, and he's going Baltimore, and Bruce going Baltimore, I'm all about Allen's Alpine.
Yeah, of course.
But for this, is not just about the quarterback. It's about the totality of the team. And I really like where Baltimore is.
You guys are out of your minds.
However,
okay, thank you.
I got to go with the Buffalo Bills and here's why. Like a lot of times we look at the Baltimore Ravens and we say, well, because Derrick Henry, they have all these. James Cook is one of those undervalued pieces that he gets it done in the running game. He gets it done in the passing game. When you look at them defensively, like they seem to always win when it matters. Like Lamar and Josh head-to-head in the regular season, Lamar has them. Yeah. But in the postseason, you know who Lamar turns into? He turns into the Josh Allen towards Patrick Mahomes as it pertains to the postseason, where Josh can't beat Mahomes in the postseason, but he beats him in the regular season. That's Lamar versus Josh Allen.
He's 0-2,
There's only been 2 games. But one was years ago.
He's 0-2.
One was a few weeks ago.
Exactly. And he was coming off of his best year we've ever seen him. I love the trajectory that Lamar is on, but where I'm looking at the Buffalo Bills is like they're going to improve their roster. They did what they did this
Coach
year.
Just gave you the numbers.
They're minus 12 million.
I understand. I'm saying from a skill perspective of maturation, receivers, they're going to get better.
They also have the best offensive line in the conference. And the one thing that I'm shocked no one has mentioned is this.
The conference?
The division. Yeah. I mean, the Bills are, if I look across the league, the Bills are the only team in the league that I feel almost 100% certain, including the Chiefs, that over the next 3 years, they're going to be hosting a playoff game every year.
Yeah.
Because, that's not a knock on the Chiefs, but it's there's real competition. There's other legitimate teams in that division. There's obviously at least one, if not 2 other very legitimate teams in the AFC North. The AFC East is in a very similar position it was in for Brady's career, except for the fact that it is now the Bills being where the Patriots were, where there are times where a team pops up, but it's a constant upheaval at coaches, constant upheaval at quarterbacks for those other spots. So I think the Bills are in that position. Their offensive line is locked up, which was the strength of their team. And I just do trust Josh far more than I trust Lamar down the stretch of the season and in the postseason. I think Josh has earned that. I think Josh has earned the right to be called right now the second best playoff quarterback in football. As Jalen Hurts could argue, he's earned that right, but the second best in the AFC. And so, to me, it's Buffalo easily.
I think the division is an issue, but as we've talked about, Pittsburgh hasn't been able to get over the hump from a quarterback perspective. So they're always sort of in that middle of the,
It's
500.
really Cincinnati.
And then Cincinnati, yeah, they have Joe Burrow, but they find a way to struggle every season when you think they shouldn't. And then Cleveland is stuck where they are. I'm encouraged by the AFC East in the sense of picking up Vrabel and now picking up Aaron Glenn. So I think those organizations have a chance to elevate. Will it necessarily be next season? No, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be the cakewalk it's been.
Well, no, I think long term that might be the case. But if I'm just looking at the next 3 years,
like 3 years in the NFL
is a long time. No, that's fair. I just
most people are fired by that.
I don't. I look at, and I'll throw this to you, Brew, and then we move on. I think it's just basically off the board that Buffalo has a disaster season. And I think Baltimore, whether it is because of the way we saw their defense play at the beginning of this year, or Lamar getting hurt the previous couple of years, we've seen Baltimore have that down year out of nowhere, and that to me would lead.
Well, their down
But
year
the down
was
years
9
are if
and
he's sick.
8, right?
If he gets he's had these colds,
Yes.
little injuries that aren't that serious, but slight injuries.
I just
but
think,
outside of that, he hasn't had. They don't have a down year when he's healthy.
No, I know, but the Bills don't have one at all. I mean, the Bills every single year win that division.
They do.
Every single year win 10 games. Every single year in the playoffs.
The division is right, but I think, and I would give Josh the slight. He's certainly been better than Lamar in the playoffs. But I thought Lamar, even though he had the fumble and and that could have pretty much cost him the game, he took steps this year. He talked about it. Pittsburgh, not only Pittsburgh, period, but Pittsburgh in the playoffs, and then played well against Buffalo.
Nick's not like me. He's not a Lamar guy. I've been a Lamar guy forever.
This is so.
I'm doing the brew.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a Lamar guy.
Yeah, he's a Lamar. No, that is
I've
true.
been a
He's
Lamar
always
guy
been a Lamar guy. Everybody knows that. All right, coming up next, one of Brew's guys, Wimby. Better than a
Is this
king.
even a
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.